Okay, but I moved the window. Is it still visible, the presentation?
Yes.
Yeah?
We can see your
Okay,
slides.
very good. Very good. So thank you everyone for joining and taking the time today. Today I would like to speak about the challenges of managing engineering licensing, what, at least to my view, we are facing. I really like to interact during the presentation. So if you write, and we can even respond on the spot. You can also talk. I invite you if you want to add something that I'm saying, say not correct, whatever interaction, I invite you to interact. Before I start to talk about that, I want to set a common ground so everyone knows what we are doing. Not everyone is using engineering licensing, managing it. So just a few words. So what is engineering licensing? Engineering licensing, we refer to anything that is licensed by a license server. If there is a license server, we typically call it engineering licensing. I think that now it's changing, and many other software systems are licensed by a license server, but that's the old definition, and we keep it this way. And what is specialty licensing? So specialty licensing is a term set by Gartner. And I checked the document. They refer to CAD, EDA, and GIS that are often managed by license managers. So they refer to the same. I would like to, yes?
Sorry, we don't see your slides are changing. We still see the slide here.
Why is that? Is it okay now?
Not
Ah,
yet.
no, not. Okay, wait. I will share again. Okay, so
Sure.
stop there.
Yeah.
And I will share again because I think I moved the window on my screen and something bad happened to it. So let me share again, 1 minute, and we will all be together. That's weird. There is no connection between my presenter view. Yes, it is. Okay, it is connected. Sorry.
No.
Take a minute. We will fix that.
I will share it with you.
Yeah. Okay. Is it okay now?
Can
you see it? It should show demo licensing, and I'm moving one slide back. So it's okay now, correct?
Yes.
Great, amazing. Thank you. So we spoke about how Gartner view it. I would like to offer a different definition to specialty licensing. So it's whatever is not based on install and audit. So everything that is not, for me, is specialty licensing, and it includes all the engineering license manager, cloud-based license manager for software that might be running on the browser, might be installed. Many examples like Microsoft and Adobe, everything is like either a combination of using something on the browser, using it on installed software. All this is a specialty licensing. We might want also to include dongles, which are the physical dongles, and maybe also software dongles, token licensing, and so on. So that's what we're talking about. And just to, again, to keep everyone on the same ground, I would like to show a very, very short presentation to take less than a minute about engineering licensing to demonstrate how a simple license pool is working. So we can see the licenses in the license pool to the right, and we can see the workstation on the left. The workstation can consume the licenses until the license pool is empty. There are no more licenses. Someone releases the license, then it goes back to the license pool. maybe someone else can consume that license, and the next person that will try to get the license will get a license denied because the license pool is empty. This is the most simple view. Another concept I would like to take a minute to present is the license users to license ratio, which is critical in engineering licensing. So let's say we have 400 users, 100 licenses, we have a ratio of 4 to 1. This is a common ratio, and it's very critical. Let's take an example, a network SIP that costs $20,000, and let's look on the chart. So when we have this ratio of 4 to 1, we see that the cost per user is $5,000. But if we do less better, we are going to a price of $10,000 per user. If we do better, which is possible, definitely possible, we are doing much better. The difference in the cost is very big, and so there is a good reason to do the effort. So my name is Oren. I'm a CEO of OpenLM. I'm passionate about helping you to get the most out of your software licensing. That's what I'm doing for the last 15 years. I would like to shortly introduce OpenLM. So we are helping organizations to stretch their licenses to their limit. We initially started with focusing on engineering software and helping companies to get the most out of their licenses. After more than 10 years in the field, we are doing a lot more. We are working with many different software systems. We support more than 60 different licensing systems. And that's what we're doing. We are looking forward to help you. We are a group, worldwide group. We have locations worldwide, and we support users everywhere. Some logos of our customers that agreed for us to publish their logos. And we are a people-oriented company. We have an environment that allows company to flourish and grow and to develop their capabilities. So let's dive into the license management challenges. And the first thing that I would like to talk about is the built-in conflict that exists between the customer and the vendor. And so let's start with the point of view of the vendor. The vendors, in order to survive and exist as a company, they must show profit. They must show that they are making money for the investors. And this is a very challenging thing to do. There is an overall increasing competition in the market, in whatever field you are into. You can see that the entry cost to enter the market in many cases is lower now, and companies need to show that they are profitable. The costs are increasing, and especially the people costs. We need to invest a lot in being compliant, being secure. So these are biggest expenses, and that's why you see how vendors are changing the licensing model, increasing pricing, trying to get more profit from the same customer. The vendors are also limited in resources, the same as us, and they are always asking themselves where to invest. And sometimes, as a users, we always want them to focus on the core functionality of the product and where exactly I want to use the product, because the products are very wide and everyone is using specific parts of the product. We always want them to invest in what we do. But then we also want them to bring us a better management tool, so I can manage my subscription. I can easily see how am I utilizing the licenses I purchase. I want to improve and use it in a better way. For the vendor is not the main priority. And many of them are saying, oh, look, I purchased this license manager, it's industry standard, now it's your problem to manage it. That's not our business to do that. So the conflict is affecting our abilities. From our side, as customer trying to get the most, we can do that. It's of course an investment of efforts and time, but we can definitely do that. This is an ongoing conflict that won't probably ever be solved. The next part I would like to focus on is the limitation of the license managers. So the dream of having this license manager that covers everything is probably not always true. So let's see what type of license managers do we have. We have what we call commercial license manager, produced by companies that that's their business. They produce license manager, they sell it to vendor, and this is actually a huge benefit for us as customers. So we can develop the expertise of managing the commercial license manager. We can easily get a new software in-house. We know how to manage it. Everything that we develop should be working for it. This is actually a great idea, and we see that big companies, many big companies are actually pushing new vendors, saying, you want me to take your software, you need to be licensed using this specific platform because this is something I know how to manage. If you come with a proprietary license manager or something that is not common in my organization, it will be a huge cost for me to manage that. So, and then we get to the proprietary license manager. This is something that is typically developed by the software vendor. Sometimes it's not their business. They just decided it's too expensive to take the commercial one. They think they can do better than the commercial product, maybe have something that is more adjusted to what they need. The problem here is that typically it's limited, and the fact that the company was once able to invest in this project and create a proprietary license manager doesn't mean that say that they will be able to go over time and maintain it. And that's what we see is that, okay, it was created, maybe it was good at the time, but nothing is changing because the priority of the company is to invest in the core technology, and now the license manager, okay, it works. Why do I care about it anymore? And we can't really invest more efforts in it. Now, I would like to take a few minutes to talk about the license manager. So, like when we see this license manager that we are getting, the thought is coming, okay, what did you thought about when you created it? So taking a FlexLM that is already more than 40 years old is a very good example of something that we need to understand the environment. At the time, we were using Unix, mainly Unix workstations for this type of software. I was using it, it was great, and we had very, very expensive systems. At the time, I was specifically using ArcGIS, it was running on Unix, and it was very expensive, and the license management was done locally as a FlexLM daemon that was running probably on a machine that we call the server, the same as all the other. It was completely local. It wasn't connected to the IT of the whole environment. So the whole thinking was departmental. Okay, we developed something that is good for your department. I think the customer was not in the focus. The focus was on preventing piracy. So the software vendor focus was, okay, I need to make sure that only people that pay are using the software, and that's what matters. For the fact that FlexLM provides the information, eventually most of the information we need is something that developed over time. Another approach of the vendor is like saying, okay, that's not my business. I protected my software. Everything else is something that is your problem as a customer. And this is actually good because OpenLM exists because of that, because there are big challenges. It's not easy to manage software licenses, and it created a whole market of licensing tools, which makes sense, I think. Let's think for a minute about what we would like to get from the optimal license manager. So I think that some ideas, and I would like to hear what you think. Also, I think that the main thing is that we want the information. So we want to get as much information about the utilization of the software licensing, how is it used, and this is the base to everything. Then the second priority, first, if we speak about the best model that we can wish to get, it's a network license and it should be token based because that's the best model for the end customer. The second thing is, I think, synchronization with the directory of the organization. We don't want to individually manage licenses. We also want to have a full control about the allocation and be flexible as possible. Branislav, what do you think? What's your optimal license manager?
Well, you put the 2 out of 3, but the third one, and that's one of the most important ones, is that the usage scope of the license should be global. That you are not limited.
Right. Yes, definitely. Yes. I think also, if we go further, redundancy. So we want to have a redundant system, and that's also important. Okay, so we did our dreaming. Now let's go to reality. So next, I would like to think with you about why are there so many license models out there. So it makes sense because the vendor, when the vendor is trying to position itself, trying to offer value to the customer, it's hard to fit everyone into the same model. So it's very different. You want to bring specific things to the customer. It's also your positioning in the market. So who are you? What are you? How do you measure the value? And this is always reflected in the licensing model, and that's why we have so many license models. The first one, which is mostly common, I think, is a contract plus auditing as needed. And this is commonly used by many vendors, such as Microsoft, Adobe, many other names. So the idea is that we get the software, we can install it on each workstation, on everywhere we want, but we need to be compliant. So we need to make sure that the number of installations is the same as the number of licenses we purchased. It's very hard to maintain that, and there are many specific software tools that are helping us to do that. Some vendors provide their own. Branislav, you want to add about this one?
No, I agree. That's the baseline of the SAM. That's when you start the software asset management. That's what you are being drilled into your head. I have entitlement. It's what do I own? I need to know what do I own. And on the other hand, I have what do I have installed. By the way, don't get fooled. It's not about software. If you don't have a meticulous hardware inventory, tracking your software doesn't help because you are probably off by a huge margin.
Yes, right. Okay, so license managers, based licensing. So this is traditionally was provided as on-prem installation. You install it within the organizations. There are many examples of license managers that we get. It's currently moving more to the cloud, so we see more and more cloud license managers. And the more common model of licensing is now named users. So that's what we mostly see. We also still see some traditional licensing models such as dongles, which are still very, very popular in the market. We see software dongles, so no physical thing, but still it works, and other methods. So we have a license manager. Can we forget about compliance? And so the question is, what is the promise of the license manager? So what we already agreed that the license manager is mostly for the vendor. So it's mostly for the vendor to make sure that you are paying for the value we are getting as a customer. But the question is, can we forget about compliance? And I think the answer is probably not. There are many limitations that are not always covered by the functionality of the license managers because it's very complex to do that. And one example is geography limitation. Basically, in many cases, the license is to utilize the software on a very specific territory and not everywhere. It can be a continent, can be a country, can be even a specific location, like a factory or something like that. And this is not covered. And in order to show that you're compliant, and to know that you're compliant, you need to track the utilization to see who is executing the licensing. And if there is a problem, to fix that as soon as possible before you get into a compliance issue. The allocations. Allocation is something that is used when the model is not a pure network license. A good example for that is MATLAB network named licensing, where I can buy a set of seats, let's say 5, I have 5 seats, I can allocate the licenses to 5 users. And basically we write the allocation into the options file of this specific license manager. The question is, what happened if I allocated the licenses and then day after a person is coming and saying, okay, I need a license. I can definitely go check who is actually using the license because I have a management system. I can see that, and then I can remove one person and put another one. And maybe I did that, and after an hour, someone else is coming and saying, okay, let's see who is not using, and I remove him, I put another person. It's doable, but it's not legal. The allocations are typically limited. And if you check the license manager, it won't tell you, okay, this is the limitation. You need to go to the contract and check whether what's the limitation, and then you need to pay attention to that. And this is not easy to do, and it's easy to fail on that point. Stanislav, anything to add about that?
I actually want to add to your previous slide, and then I will add to this. So let me speak 1 minute about the geography limitations. This was pretty straightforward in the past, but in this new world of working from home that the corona crisis brought to us, a lot has changed, because previously in the contractual obligations, in the contract definitions, you usually didn't have defined whether we are talking about the user location or we are talking about the machine location. Now, because it was almost universally understood that all the engineers were actually sitting on the tech centers where they were doing the engineering, the development. But with the corona, as users started more and more working from home, and the VDI has become a prevalent solution where the engineers can sit at home and they connect to these powerful graphical stations that may be located in a data center. So what does matter now? Is it the user location that matters for the compliance, or is it actually the location of the machine that matters for the compliance? So it creates this sort of a gray area where, you can basically, if it's not defined, you can argue both. But I would strongly suggest during a renewal that it's something that is actually brought towards the attention of the vendor, and it's actually properly defined, because it can get you in trouble. And to the
Are they willing to negotiate that?
Yes. I cannot say a name, but we have a customer it's a big Dassault customer, and Dassault was actually kind enough to agree that yes, we are going to define it on a per machine location, which is basically that's what you in this new world is probably what you want. It's where the computer is located, that's what matters. But different vendors may approach differently. We have different accounts even from different customers regarding communications with the same vendor. Somebody praises Dassault, somebody praises Siemens. It's hard to pick. We have customers who do love Autodesk, even though
maybe I can raise another scenario. So let's say the headquarters is in Germany, and we have a huge development center in India, for example. And then let's say the guy from India is coming to the headquarters, or the other side, an engineer from Germany is coming to India, and then the question is what is happening at this stage. So my setting is like set. I have the environment variable pointing to my original license manager.
Well, I want to say that a good environment will detect your IP address, know that you're located in India, and change the environment variable. But again, it's not always the case, so it depends on the settings. But yes, these are all the hurdles that a good license manager, I mean the person who's managing the licenses, all these variables that need to be taken into account and actually evaluated. And like you said a couple slides earlier, you can do it manually. You can go read the log files, check the log files, or you can get a tool, that maybe not does everything for you, but at least makes it much more clear and readable.
Okay, allocation.
So, and allocations, again, it's an interesting topic because you outlined MATLAB. That's the one scenario that you can have, where it's actually limited by the contract, but it's not limited by the license manager. I would like to add two more cases. So, one would be the Dassault named license model, which with the Dassault 3D experience, which is now their go-to solution, they're trying to move away everybody from CATIA version 5 to the 3D experience platform, which also does PLM on top of CAD design. The model in here is actually interesting because you can recycle the licenses. You can reassign them after a certain period of time. And in this case, the Dassault license manager actually does natively support the check. So it is checking for you. And when you are able, you can go ahead and recycle the licenses. And the third one is because allocation has such a broad application. It's not just about engineering licenses. One of the best example would be Adobe Document Cloud, Adobe Acrobat. in an organization of 30,000 employees, you wouldn't believe how many people will create a business case. I need an Acrobat to edit my PDF files. Now, it's such a huge moneymaker for Adobe Acrobat. You wouldn't believe how much money are corporations paying for just document code. We're not talking about design, just talking about editing PDF files. And in this case, getting a solution or creating a solution for yourself with one of the industry tools where you can check who has the license allocated, check when was the last time the license was actually used, and on top of that, maybe even get you wouldn't think of Adobe Acrobat as something where you want to see usage. You would just consider deployment. But usage can again matter, because if you see somebody's just using it once a year, well, they probably don't have a real business case, and you can get that license to somebody else. And again, the single individual license, it's not that expensive, but once you start talking about tens, hundreds, or maybe thousands of users, you can see how this can again spiral out of control. And it's all about allocations.
Right. I agree. Let's move forward. We have 10 minutes, so to the discussion. Another compliance thing that is not covered, it's multiple devices. So where does the vendor allow you to run your licensing? There is a good example which is very controversial also in Autodesk. New network named licensing. So they allow us to run it on limited devices. And if you check the internet, there are a lot of complaints of users that were accessed by Autodesk to pay a lot of money because they are not compliant, and there is no management way they don't provide a way to manage. Let's move forward and talk about where is the money? Where are we going to invest our efforts as a license manager, as a people that manage the licensing for the organization? And I would like to talk about common priorities that typically we see in organizations. So thinking about what's the software cost, so what's the cost of the assets, and how common is it? How many people are actually using it? The audit risk, so what is the risk that the vendor will come and audit us? And also, what is the potential savings? So if I invest this number of hours and this effort and maybe invest money in software, what can I gain out of it? The part that is not always visible, it's like the hidden cost, as one slide defines it, is the part of what are the costs that are not direct. So the engineering time, the engineers are spending in order to get the license. So how many times they don't have the license? What is the project timeline that we need to deliver results, and it depends on the software licenses that we are using. So what we see is mainly in many organizations, so talks we have with our customer, many focus on the commonly used, which in many cases is Office and Adobe and all other utilities, just because it's so wide and widely used, and they're coming to audit many times. Expensive is also something that we see. So what is the seat price? Can be 10,000, 50,000, and we see that more people are actually spending efforts and trying to understand what's going on, how people are using it, how can we avoid licenses from being idling on the workstation. I just remember I wrote an article a few years ago as the title is "Software License as a Status Symbol." So in many organizations, we are working with people and say, what about this license? it's not in use. And they'll say, no, we can't touch that. He is an expert, he is a department manager, and this license is allocated to him. Nobody can use it. We see that in organizations, still see that. And yes, we spoke about the legal risk, how to estimate it. What do you think, Branislav? Would like to say a word about the legal risk? How do you say, okay, this is where I want to invest the effort because of a legal risk?
So legal risk in the case, and I'm going to speak broadly, is you can even define a non-compliance as being legal risk, but the higher definition would be and I have seen it actually happen live on a presentation towards a customer where a CAD engineer launched a cracked CATIA version. Yes. Yes. On a presentation towards a customer, an engineer, slid down, went to the file explorer and launched the cnext-crack.exe, which is, something that can have huge implications for an organization. It doesn't matter what kind of an organization you are. So this is where you would like to get a software that can actually help you track that. Because we can talk about the compliance all over, but from the legal perspective, one of the highest focuses that you should have is you should only use authorized software. And whenever you are using something like a freeware or shareware or open source, read the terms, the end user license agreement, make sure that the software is actually free, not just for your normal home use, but actually for the business use as well.
All right. Review cycles. So let's take the last 5 minutes to discuss that. So I think that the dream is to get to a situation where we have a fully automated, ongoing reviews of your software usage, which will issue a recommendation and maybe take automatic action to correct things. So that's what we would like to have. I think we are not there yet. So what we mostly see is timely reviews. So when I speak with customers, we see that okay, we are reviewing every 3 months, every 2 months. What are you reviewing? I'm reviewing this and this. What about the other? Okay, this is smaller. We can't cover that. We don't have enough changes. If you think about this tool, the timely review, what's the downside? The downside is that the review cycle I'm hearing from customers 6 months, 3 months. So if you think 3 months is a lot of time, you might. So let's take an example. We have a software and we have 2 licensing methods. One is named licensing and the other is network licensing. And I want to give the people that are using it a lot of time, the name licensing and the network license to keep for the people that are only occasionally accessing the software. So very good. I'm doing the review. I checked and I found a person is using it all the time. Next time I get to the next reviews in 3 months and I see he's still using it a lot, but I missed the middle. In the middle, there was a long vacation. There was a change in priorities, a switch project, and we missed the opportunity to adjust the licensing. If we can by the agreement, but this is something to be checked, but we are missing that opportunity of optimization. Next is, we have 2 minutes, so we'll do it quickly. Next is optimization versus privacy. And I think that anything that we are doing as license manager is based on data. And gathering data about people, about our employees, is definitely something that contradicts their privacy and I'm sure that all of us don't want to work in an organization where we are tracking their activity and we don't trust them. Nobody wants that. So this is a question. How do we deal with that? I think that there are privacy standards, and there are, I don't know, acceptable behavior in different places. So just take an example. EU is very strict on what you can do, even for people that are working for you. Other places are less strict about that. And there is also a misunderstanding about what applies to what. Many people think that GDPR is applied. It's not. So we need to have this understanding. One thing that I am hearing from customers that is working very well, is to work hand to hand with the employees, the employee council, in that sense. So when we cooperate, we present our goals. That's what we want to achieve. This is the information we gather. We implemented algorithms that anonymize the information, so you can look on the data on the statistical level, but not on the specific employee. Another way is to limit the access of people to that information, so only the people that need to take the decision will see the specific data. Every stakeholder of the system can see his own view, which matters to him. So there are solutions to that. And for the sake of the organization and for you being profitable and able to deliver, we need to do this effort. So I would like to thank you very much for listening, and I now invite you all to open your cameras and microphones, and let's discuss and talk.
Thanks, Oren. So I have already a few questions on the chat queue, I see. And the first question that we have from Edward Howard, he is asking if license servers are not accessible in our server room, but on the cloud at the vendor site, how can we monitor them with OpenLM?
Okay. So they are only accessible
on the cloud and not accessible in the server room. And this cloud is at the vendor site. Then how?
I think we are talking about, the Dassault is trying to do the migration, Alter is trying to do the migration, Autodesk already is pushing the customer, but it's not even a real license. In some cases it's a real license server, but it's hosted by the vendor, and in other cases it's not even a real license server anymore. It's just a cloud-based named license.
So basically, look, let's talk in general. In general, we support monitoring license servers that are installed on-prem and traditional license manager. We also support cloud license manager. If you have an on-prem installation of OpenLM, it can go out and access the license manager on the cloud. But you can also install our license manager agent, OpenLM Broker. You can also install it on the cloud, and then you can monitor the license manager. The data will be delivered to your on-prem installation. The other option is, yes, to use our cloud solution, and then you're directly connected to the license manager. And there is always a benefit now that people are working from many different places, and they're like, you can never know where they work for. There is a huge benefit to using the cloud installation of the cloud offering of OpenLM.
I want to add to that for some of the cloud-based license managers like Dassault is now doing and Alter is now doing, we are working on developing a functionality that will enable us to monitor it the same way as you would monitor it if you had it on premises. Like, for example, right now we are trying to do it for the salt. It should be pretty straightforward. Because for the salt will not allow you to install our agent, but we are looking at ways to actually still get the data stream from that cloud-based license manager and import it into our tool.
Thank you so much, Branislav. Thanks, Oren. We have our next question coming from Abdul, and he has two questions. So I'll read out the first question. How do you see the migration of license managers from traditional in-house license servers to cloud licensing? Is this something in favor of end users or the software vendors?
So if I can start, it's like definitely in favor of the software vendor. So software vendors are actually taking a better control of what they provide. I think that typically we see that sometimes it's like, okay, we had a on-prem license manager, now we move to the cloud. It's always presented as a great service. You don't need to manage it. But in many cases, it's also accompanied by a change of the licensing policy. And what we typically see that we are changing from network licensing to named licensing. And this is I think that this concept of looking on the software as an asset is like changing. So in the past we said, okay, if you have Office software or something that is relatively cheap, you just install it, will count, and that's all. But if you have an engineering software that is cost tens of thousands of dollars, we treat it not like a software, we treat it as an investment. So the same as I look on a machine that I have, maybe I look on a truck, a car, whatever, a sheep, I'm looking on the software, the same. And I'm saying I need to utilize the same as I would like to have drivers running the truck 24 hours. I would like to do the same for the software. And this is what is changing now, and we're more looking into a licensing model that are focusing on the user. Overall, maybe the price per user is lower, not always. Many times it's higher, and overall, we are paying more money. Branislav, what do you think?
Well, I think it needs to be said. So first, the disclaimer. Of course, the way it's presented, and there is an upside to it. It's small, but there is an upside. You don't need to manage the hardware. You don't need to have a person who is managing it. You are only responsible for the client side. So it has to be said that there is this advantage. But what you are trading here is that you are trading visibility and control over simplification. You're getting rid of all the tasks that you need to do to manage it. But you are losing the visibility and you're losing the control. But, have any one of you noticed, and this is some food for thought, because it was a big topic at the ITEM conference, a couple of weeks back, how software is actually, you said the software, we are still looking at it as an asset, but software and the engineering software specifically is moving away from being perpetual, where you actually own the rights to use it forever, and you get the upgrades as long as you pay maintenance and you get the support. That's where you actually can say, okay, this application is an asset for me because I own it, and I can bet that any purchasing person from your organization will tell you the same. And we moved it to the subscription-based model where you don't own anything, so it's no longer an asset. It's a spend. It's an expense. Software is slowly but steadily switching from being an asset to being an expense. And if all the software you have is subscription-based, cloud-based, named user, you are just increasing the expense, and you cannot even name it as an asset anymore. It's funny because the term software asset management is actually losing, the original meaning.
Yes. And you know what? I must also say something about maybe the change in view. So we see software as a service. It's a tool, and it happened in the past for me. So you ask someone in the organization, a manager, do you want to continue maintenance for this software? And he's saying, yes, definitely, we must have it. And that's one, but you're not using it. Look, you're not even utilizing it. Yes, but we invested in it. So it was like, no, we paid a lot of money. We already paid 2 years maintenance. Why would you stop using it? But you're not using it. And maybe this is the positive part of changing from asset to a service. Okay, I'm not using it. I'm not using it. I'm not paying for it. It's not painful because it's not a long term.
Right. Okay, so the next question by Abdul, what is your view on the software vendors who softly threaten an audit when we try to reduce the number of licenses?
Wow.
Let me make this the sales pitch. You see, this is why we are here. This is why we have our tool. This is why we are trying to promote. You see, if you have a tool, it can be OpenLM, it can be competition, provided you have at least something that you are tracking and managing your licenses correctly, you should know where you stand. Maybe you don't know it 100%, but you should know your overall standing. And in that case, you can very safely approach the vendor because you know where you are at. And audit is always a negotiation. And if you already have a tool, you can always try to argue with the vendor that, hey, here's my tool. I'm collecting data on every second. I'm collecting all the data for all my applications from my engineering department. I can give you the reports. I'm doing fine. You can see this is my peak. This is my ownership. I just want to reduce. I want to spend. In that case, you're safe. Of course, if you if you are just trying to make a guess, or you have the feeling, I can reduce some licenses because I can see that I have too much, but you don't have the visibility overall what is happening in your environment. Well, in that case, what can you do? You can either go and risk it, or you can just back off. But again, it's always a negotiation. And my sales pitch here is get the monitoring tool, have the visibility, because if you have visibility, you know what is happening, you can be on the safe side. And I can tell you from experience, many vendors, and we actually have customers that have agreements with vendors where they are not coming to their environment to do any kind of scans. They just export the data from OpenLM and provide it to the vendor, and the vendor marks it okay. We even have customers that actually, provide the annual reports from OpenLM, and based on that, they do the negotiation for the next renewal period. So, it's all possible. It can all be agreed, and it will always make you be on the safer side.
Yes, and I want to add for that. I completely agree. I want to add for that from the look. Auditing is a commercial business. It costs a lot of money to go to an organization, to install the tools, to collect the data. And I'm telling you, they don't always have the best tools to do that. There is a lot of manual work, and they would like to see the results in the end. And if you show them that you are measuring and you know what you have and you have full control about on your software, they won't come. We have seen that many times, and from our customers, they won't come from us.
Right. Okay, so we have one more question from Edward. When I share a report with another user, can they then see all the data I can see?
No, but basically it's based on the permissions. So if we export the report or copy an image, it's what you see is everyone can see. But if you send a link for an easy admin report, each person sees according to his permission, and they won't see something they should. Correct, Branislav? Am I right?
Yes, we can configure it.
Good.
Okay, so any other questions? We do have 5 more minutes before we can call it.
There is one more from Edward, I think.
Okay. Okay, I'm just checking. Just a minute.
I can take it.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead.
So the move from concurrent to named user always costs many times more, and from concurrent perpetual to named user subscription is even more costly. And then again, you see, it's all about how much control and visibility you have over your licenses. Because of course, if you just look at the number at your number of licenses and at your number of users, and a vendor tells you, okay, so I'm going to give you 2 named for 1 concurrent, and you do the calculation without any optimization, you're probably looking at, okay, so now I have to pay twice as much money. But that's what we are talking about here. That's why we are here. That's what the visibility is about. You need to go ahead and check. So who is using these licenses? Do actually all the users have a valid business case to be using these licenses? Maybe I have an alternative application that provides the same functionality where I can migrate some of these users. Maybe I have users that are taking multiple of the same license, because there are license models and applications that do allow you to take 2, 3, 5, 7 of the same license. Again, that's what you need to know. And I'm telling you, if you are in an unoptimized license pool, unoptimized license environment, and you go ahead and you do the optimization before you actually go ahead and agree with the vendor on the move from the concurrent to the name model, maybe you will find out that you can actually get even, around the same level that you have been paying before. Of course, it's we see that these vendors, they are pushing for it. And it's something that we are also preparing internally to be able to still help our customers, even when we are in a hybrid model where the network concurrent is not the be all and end all of engineering licenses. My advice is to, gain the visibility, and you will be able to optimize it further. You're probably not going to save any money on it because, this transition is designed to generate revenue for the vendor, but it's not going to be as harmful as you would expect, or as it looks at the first glance.
Great. Thanks, Branislav. There is one more question from Edward. We have users from home computers via VPN, but usually the license log picks up a home username and home device name, yet the VPN limits it to our employees or students. How can we pick up the VPN ID with OpenLM?
VPN ID? I don't know.
Yeah, it's not 100% clear. This is not something that is actually directly related to the license manager. It's more it's related to how your networking is configured, and when the license is being checked by the license manager, what IP address is being projected from your network. Whether it's the end user VPN address, or it's maybe it's some VPN endpoint that is actually tunneling the traffic to inside your organization. So this is something that it's really hard to answer on a meeting like this without knowing more details.
By the way, Edward, I understand that you're from an academic institute, and I'm actually, we are exposed to the specific challenges that you have in this environment. And I'm inviting you, if you want to do with us a presentation to present to the other user audience what the specific challenges that you might have, the door is open. So we're looking forward to that. And I want to say, as the time is over, I want to thank you all for joining in. It was a pleasure to present today, to have the interaction, and we're looking forward to hear also from you.
Yes, thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you so much, guys. Just take one quick minute if you can, and the rest of the audiences, I would really request your kind feedback, because this is very important for us to keep going. And this will also help us the type of webinar topics that you would like to hear from us. So yes, I would let's stay for a quick 1 or 2 minutes, and we can then end this webinar.